Good morning. As we make our journey down south, visiting temples and tombs and discovering ancient Egyptian history through its legacy of death and gods, we start our journey here at the Valley of the Kings, where a lot of pharaohs that you may have heard of are buried. Pharaohs started to be buried here around the New Kingdom, which occurred from 1500 to 1000 BCE. And in this time, the pharaohs thought, maybe building giant pyramids and exposed tombs was not the best place to be buried, so they chose something more secluded and hidden, hopefully keeping their burial site a secret. Look how well that turned. So now we're just leaving the tomb of Thutmose I, I believe. And it's so cool down here. Not only to admire the craftsmanship of ancient and the artistry of ancient Egyptians, like in the frescoes behind me, but also the discovery of them by the archaeologists almost 200 years ago, before modern technology, and to discover them way deep down in the ground. It's just remarkable. At the Valley of the Kings, there are many tombs that are publicly accessible that you can get in with the price of just one admission ticket. However, they only limit you to only 3. So you have to really pick and choose which publicly accessible tombs that you want to go into. There are 4 tombs that you can pay extra to get into. One of them being the tomb of Tutankhamun, which is small and not really decorated, but people like to go in there because the pharaoh is so famous, and you can see his mummy. But the one that we chose today is Ramses V and VI, that we'll get to later, which is, according to our research, very well decorated and not too expensive compared to the tomb of Seti I, which is the most decorated, but it also costs 4 times as much to get into. So we'll see how Ramses V and VI turn out to be. Wow, that was incredible. I mean, going into some of these tombs with these beautiful paintings and beautiful inlays into this rock was truly remarkable. The one that we paid for, Ramses V and VI, was obviously the most beautiful out of the 3. However, I feel like they all come with their benefits. I mean, the first one we went into, Thutmose IV, was the least crowded. We were the only ones there, so that was an experience in itself. But it was definitely worth the stop, so we'll see you in the next one. Welcome to the first temple of our trip that we're going to visit, the Karnak Temple here in Luxor, which is the largest religious complex in the entire world, spanning over 247 acres. The temple, which was built starting in 2000 BC up through the Roman age and around 100 CE, the temple was dedicated to mainly the Theban trio, which was Amun, his wife Mut, and their son Khonsu. During the late dynasties, the cult of Amun, which was based here in Thebes, which is present-day Luxor, was very big and popular among Egyptians and the royalty. So let's go inside and check out what it has to offer. One thing that Karnak Temple is known for is 134 of these really tall columns just lining a giant corridor that stretches behind me all the way down the length of the temple. So it's really cool to see just like the sheer amounts of craftsmanship and artistry that goes into crafting these temples and making them worthy of the god. Over its 2,000 years of construction, every pharaoh, or mostly every pharaoh, made their mark by building temples and making their presence known in the Karnak Temple. So you see periods of Ramses, of Thutmose, of Hatshepsut, and you can see just the layers of pharaohs and history on top of each other here in this one place. Now standing on the Avenue of the Sphinx, the road between the Karnak Temple, that's right over there, And the Luxor temple, its little baby brother, all the way down there. So if you walk 45 minutes to an hour, you'll get down to the second temple, which we'll get to in a little bit. Now walking down the avenue of the Sphinx all the way, we find ourselves here at the Luxor temple, which is again 3 kilometers down the street from the Karnak temple. Now the Luxor temple is special in a couple different ways from any other temple that you can find in Egypt. One, it wasn't really dedicated to any specific god or multiple gods. Rather, it was dedicated for a festival that was kind of an extension off of the Karnak temple way down there. And then the second, because it's like the little brother to the Karnak temple, it isn't built in the east and west directions like many other temples in Egypt. Rather, it's faced kind of north-south. North being where the Karnak temple is, and then south obviously being through the temple that way. Now the Luxor temple began its construction around 1440 BCE, roughly 600 years after the start of the construction of the Karnak temple. And its main contributors were Ramses II and Tutankhamun. Towards the end of the temple, the Egyptian part of the temple, come across this plaza that has a Christian church right behind us. I mean, you can tell by the Roman columns that are different from the Egyptian ones back there. But the coolest part is that in the conversion of the Egyptian temple into a Christian temple, the Christians decided to plaster over the hieroglyphs with Roman art, which I think is really cool to show the layers of the history and the place and the people that lived in these different places. Today we woke up bright and early to come here to the mortuary temple of Queen Hatshepsut. If you're ever in Egypt and you want to come to the sites without any people, come at sunrise, because we are the 2 of 4 people in the entire. The temple's main acclaim comes from its design, where it has 3 terraces ranging from the bottom to the middle one where we're standing now, and the top one up there, which you can rarely see in Egyptian temples, making it super unique. Philae Temple, located on Lake Nasser at the bottom of Egypt. And it's famous because it's located on an island in the middle of Lake Nasser. For being on an island, it's surprisingly really crowded here. There are tons of people around me enjoying the beautiful landscape that you can see. It was built during the Ptolemaic era around 300 BCE and lasted very long until Justinian I of the Byzantine Empire outlawed pagan religion in the 500 CE. So it had an 800-year span, but it lasted so much longer than a lot of Egyptian temples did throughout Egypt. Now, with it being located on Lake Nasser, it had to be moved in the 1900s to make way for the rising lake levels as they dammed it off. First in the low dam right next to Aswan, and then the high dam that was further south. 40,000 pieces of the temple were moved from the lower island to this island where it stands today. It's a very similar story to a temple that we'll see next. We have finally made it to our last temple of the trip. Located right off of the banks of Lake Nasser is the great Abu Simbel Temple. Built by Ramses II in the 13th century BCE, it was dedicated after his triumphant military campaigns. It was also built to deify himself. He made himself a god with the construction of this temple. Also, off to the side is a smaller temple right over here that's dedicated to his wife, his favorite queen wife, Nefertari, that was built roughly about the same time. Something that is really cool about the Abu Simbel Temple is that twice during the year, roughly February 22nd and October 22nd, the sun, which is right up there right now, perfectly aligns with the entrance of the temple, leaving the entire inside of the temple completely illuminated with its golden sunlight. So twice a year they have a festival to commemorate that moment. However, in the 1960s, with the construction of the Aswan High Dam, which is several hundred kilometers north, archaeologists noticed that if the river continued to rise, the Abu Simbel temples would be completely underwater, as they were located down the hill there originally. So in the 1960s, Egypt and several other countries made a great effort to preserve the temples by meticulously moving the temple, just like the Philae temple upriver, from down the cliff to where it is right now. Now, simply reading about the process of moving this entire temple really doesn't do the process justice. Watching documentaries and seeing the meticulous cutting by hand in order to make precision cuts and to move everything in thousands of pieces really encapsulates the process of preservation to keep the memory of these Abu Simbel temples alive. So being able to come to Egypt and experiencing these temples and tombs and places of extreme historical magnitude is truly incredible. And it's such an amazing opportunity to be able to experience this firsthand rather than reading about it and seeing it on screen. And with that, we start our journey back up north to Cairo and on to the next adventure. Thank you guys so much for watching our video. It really means a lot if you like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future adventures that we go on. And also, please feel free to donate down below because it really helps out our channel and to create content for all of you guys at home. So it means a lot. Thank you. And we'll see you on the next adventure.